Yo, what's up everybody? My name's Alckemy. Welcome to the channel. I'm going to quickly share with the Discord that I'm live, and we're going to be talking about some stuff, primarily with Bitwig and Ableton, and looking at some of the Live 12's features. Unfortunately, I'm not in the beta, and I used to be in Live 11's beta, and I'm no longer. Might have to turn the music off. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to give some discussion to this point and not really compare the two, but more so be like, hey, this is what's going on over here, this is what's going on over here, and maybe if somebody's trying to decide or, create some, I don't know, I guess interesting conversation around the like. So let me share with this very quickly, and then I'm going to pull up Live 12's feature set and talk about some things that I like about it and some things that I would actually like to see. And there's a couple of key points that full disclosure, you would probably think that I'm biased towards Bitwig. There's a couple of very specific things that I like about Bitwig, which makes me use that as opposed to anything else. But I do think that with some of the features that Live 12 has, they're actually playing a different game now. So let me, I'm almost there. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to get my ducks in a row. Hope that you guys are having a wonderful weekend and happy Saturday. Yo, ISO, what's up? All right, question, is the music too loud? Music okay? All right, so let me know. And then, so I want to go to ableton.com, and I want to actually just look at some of these overview features with you all, because I think that there's a couple of interesting things to talk about. Hey, Odd Hive, it's okay. So Live 12 comes out early next year, and I probably am going to turn the music off because it's going to get loud. What's interesting about it is that I wanted to talk about first was the new MIDI features, actually. And something that I think is really cool that this is doing that I actually don't think a lot of other DAWs, if any, are actually working on is this right here. No, sorry, the MIDI stuff. So where is that at? So the transformation on the MIDI is something I think that I want to say a lot of people are going to look over. But if you think about it, what's cool about this is it's almost like bounce in place, but for MIDI. Hey, Vertex. So the thing that is really interesting is that like Bitwig has a bunch of modulators, of course, that are built in. It has a bunch of lots of stuff that is, like that can generate MIDI. But what's different about this is that regardless of what you do to it, it's actually going to put the MIDI down and already be recorded as a clip. I'm in FL Studio, and to be honest, I will proceed in buying Bitwig for my EDM. On Bitwig, I figured out by myself how to use it a little bit, at least on Ableton. Yeah, and we can talk about that, but I'm going to try to like go over some of the new features within Live 12 first, or at least do the best that I can, because unfortunately I can't even get my hands on this. But just from what I've observed, if you all didn't know, I've been using Ableton since Live 9, and so I have 10 still, but like I'm very well versed within Bitwig. Sorry, within Ableton up until this point. The MIDI features are the only cool thing, IMO. Yeah, but the MIDI features about it are a pretty big deal to me, because like I said, it's almost like resampling, but for MIDI, right? So like whenever you transform the MIDI, you can essentially like print it. And you can kind of do that if you're using operators and chants and stuff within Bitwig, but this has like Euclidean, it has, the obviously what we're looking at, the fit to scale, the humanize, all that other stuff that will literally move your MIDI. So you can create one version of the clip, you can duplicate that clip, and then start to mess with it without it being destructive. On Ableton, even the tutorials, I still didn't get to put a sound on the track. I feel like, so the reason why we're talking about this in the first place, at least in my own opinion, is because Bitwig and Ableton are more similar than they are different. But, what can you say? So this says modulate more flexibly. I'm not really sure. Stay in control of a parameter even after it's been mapped to a modulation source. So max for live devices, shape and now lets you freely adjust destination that's being modulated. So I think what this means is that you can, instead of only having like 8 parameters or something, it's a lot easier to figure out how to route your LFOs and modding and stuff. And this is something that I still think is relatively clunky because it's all still hidden on a device. And I think that you guys might crucify me for this, but I actually think that like the device workflow of, hey Don, of everything being scrolling from the bottom to the right, I think it needs an overhaul. Long story short, I personally would like to see from either company an overhaul, because you're going to get to a certain point where you can only have one small lane that can't be adjusted of working on your devices, especially for something like Bitwig. Actually, I think Ableton is even worse, to be honest. But because you only have this, even though you can group, you only have one tab. So that means that if you're trying to create like a complex, let's say multi-layer rack or something, then you have to like toggle in between all these. And so if you've got multiple racks like this, so let's, I don't know, grab like a chorus or something. And let's say we group this, and then we've got a lot of cross modulation or a lot of, you know, a lot of stuff that's in between. Now suddenly I'm fiddling through all these different menus in order to figure out what it is that I'm looking at, right? So in my opinion, I would love to see a semi-modular approach to both of these. And I'm not here to talk bad about either one. I'm just here to talk about different things that I like about the two because they're so similar. But this to me would be a really big workflow enhancement. Something more like Patcher. Yeah, I think Patcher could be, you know, could be considered, or, you know, even taking a page out of Faceplant's book where you've got multiple lanes to put stuff in. You know what I'm saying? And on one end, like, yes, you would have to be able to expand the device menu, but like you're going to get to a point with this to where, bear with me, you're going to have to get into this kind of situation, right? And so when you start expanding all of this and you're starting to have to scroll, like this is not very fun. This is not, it definitely like has a cap on how far I'm willing to go for something like this, right? So I don't know. I think that I would like to see this kind of change, or at least be able to expand, you know, to where you can see 2 lanes at the same time or 3 lanes at the same time, or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily need a grid option, although having the grid inside of, for third-party effects would, or third-party VSTs would be amazing, or at least even that, or in Maxter Live or something. But I really appreciate the semi-modular approach. That's my jam. Hola, new MIDI operators are well nailed the scale feature and tuning too, but version 12 is missing the important feature like balance in place. We're going to talk about that. The GUI is so limited and no audio edit feature. I've tried the Ableton beta and it has some great features, but I think after using Bitwig, the browser just sucks. I don't think I can go back. So do you think that the browser is not as good as Bitwig's? Because a lot of people don't like Bitwig's browser. Bitwig gets additional points for being cross-platform. Oh, to be able to open up other projects. Yeah. It may be. I don't say no, but for me is, wait, what? Ableton seems intimidating at first, but once you learn the shortcuts and get the workflow momentum, you'll never look back at FL. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that, but it's pretty interesting. Also, everyone, I am here and I know that I probably started a fire, but I do just want to have a conversation with you all about what's going on. I'm really not trying to sway you. I do have affiliate links for Bitwig, but I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I just want to talk about the differences between the two, and hope that we can have an honest conversation and just enjoy Saturday today, because I don't see a lot of people doing this, and I think that it would be good to just have this discussion. So one thing that, that I would like to see from Ableton is bounce in place. I guess we can go there because that's what's being brought up. But basically, if you don't know what that is, there's custom keyboard shortcuts on this. So if I go and add, I don't know, I'd much rather prefer MIDI actually, because that will be something that will kind of give you the difference of the two. So let's say I really like this or whatever. Well, I can just go Command B and that's going to bounce this in place. But what's cool about this is that I can still keep MIDI on here and have a hybrid, both audio and MIDI. And then if I hit J, which is bounce to new track, then this will bounce post fader. So this is very important. But there is something that makes this workflow kind of void. And that is, my friends, the rolling sampler. because this guy right here, shout out to Birds Things, this pretty much changed the game for any DAW that you're in. So as important as I think that Bounce in Place could be for Ableton, I also hate freezing and flattening tracks. If you have the rolling sampler, all this stuff becomes inconsequential because you can just drag it out. You know, so if I were to play something, perhaps like, I can just grab this and then look, I can just pull it out. And this only saves to my RAM. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like, once you have something like this, it's really not that big of a deal. And I think that there's like something in Ableton called Treasure Trove or something, but I think that it's constantly recording, which is the difference between this. But in theory, if we're looking at resampling, right, like the rolling sampler is the meta. And I think the only thing that could make both of those better is if rolling sampler to some extent were implemented directly or natively within any DAW, which I don't know if that's ever going to happen or not. I used to use FL Studio exclusively, but since I moved to Linux, I started to look at another DAWs compatible with it. I'm not going to lie, Bitwig comes out as the best one. Well, I don't think that you have a lot of options for Linux, if I'm not mistaken, right? I think, is Bitwig the only one? And Bitwig is great, don't get me wrong. So the other thing with Ableton that is kind of a bummer is that if you turn devices off, it's still running in the background unless if you freeze it. So with this, if you actually turn the devices off, then it'll actually save your CPU, which I think is really cool. But again, it's not that big of a deal. It just depends on what your workflow is and whatnot. Like Ableton has some really cool things as well, because for one, I miss the devices a lot. I miss the retrospective recording. There is a workaround to that. Again, Birds Things, shout outs to you. There's MIDI cap, but it doesn't quite work the same. MIDI cap. So this is free. And if you all are in Bitwig and you need something that has retrospective recording, or at least as far as MIDI, then you can use that, which is dope. You can just pull that out, whatever the hell that abomination was. And there you go. So that's pretty cool. But aside from that, they're more similar than they are different. I think the big thing for me though, man, is like, I'm really interested to see like what this MIDI stuff has going on. And some people are really fond of like having scales and whatnot. And for me personally, I don't think this is, to me, this is like a beginner feature, and no offense to anybody. Like, I don't mean any disrespect, but I feel like scales on, and feel free to like tell me otherwise, but I feel like if you need a scale on your piano roll because you can't figure a scale out, then that's not like that's a very beginner-esque type of thing. At the same time, I could understand that that is convenient, and that's something that Ableton has that Bitwig does not. Sort of. It doesn't have like a true scale. Yeah, MIDI cap is dope. It's free, so go download it. Ableton keeps crashing. I took a video about it a week ago and it's on my channel, but Bitwig opens up my Ableton projects, which Ableton fails to open. Man, that might be a good save, and that's unfortunate. Yo, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. The scale aware thing is such a useless function to focus on, IMO. Well, I mean, it depends on where you're coming from, right? I mean, you got to realize that in electronic music, and I was making fun of people over this, but a quick story is that like what's advanced to some people might not be advanced to you, and what's advanced to me, or what's not advanced to me, might be advanced to you, or and vice versa, right? Like, I'll tell you the story of somebody that was talking to me about advanced sound design that was like hi-hat rolls and pitching hi-hats. They're like, man, this is like, you can't even do that in Ableton. And I was like, you know, that's important to some people. So it's like, you can do that in every DAW, but you get what I mean? Like, you never know who you're talking to, and trying to just be like, hey, you know, what is it that you need out of the kind of production studio that you have? Forgive me if this is a little unorganized and the format of this isn't very streamlined. I apologize. I'm really just trying to, you know what I mean, just have discussions and talk about this. So if this goes in a completely different direction than what I thought, I'm not too worried about it. Scale is now implemented in the new synth with microtuning is where the real fun begins, especially for a native East musician. Are you talking about within Ableton? Because both DAWs have the microtuning now. MIDI cap is still free. There's a free version. You just have to scroll for it. Different strokes for different folks. One man's treasure is another man's trash. Right, I agree. Sorry, Reaper. Oh, Reaper's on Linux. Okay. There's Arter. I actually have never heard of that. One simple quality of life thing I love from Bitwig is to make the selected track more obvious. Like, how do you mean? How would you want it to be different? I'm in beta on this, by the way, but like, oh, I see. Okay, never mind. I see what you mean. So maybe like a brighter highlight or something. But it limits you so much. By only playing a scale, you really close yourself off to a lot of flavor. That's just my opinion. Okay, well, I agree with you, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to focus just on that. You know what I'm saying? One other thing that Ableton has, obviously, is Max for Live, and you can create custom user interfaces where Bitwig is, you have the grid. I would like to see custom faces for the grid stuff. And then also, dude, you then don't get the scale aware thing. Wait, what? MIDI cap light buffer is just 60 seconds though. I feel like the whole universe is pushing me to learn Bitwig because I literally have done anything to save Ableton. I mean, it makes it more flexible now. I kind of wish MIDI CC was directly in the piano roll as well as like right click and make ARPs and other shit and other DAWs. I need to read that again. Is it not? Is it not with a little E envelope thing where you can find your CCs and then like you just touch the knob and then it pops up? Or are you talking about something different? Ableton relies way too much on Max for Live, but I love Max for Live. What up, gang? What up, Mark? Not in Bitwig? Oh, in Bitwig's piano roll? Does it not? Yeah, well, it does, but it doesn't. You have to just click on the automation tab, which would be the same thing as the E button. So I don't know. What's the difference between the E button and the little automation thing? I don't know. Personally, I like Bitwig's automation because I can just touch a knob, say the volume or whatever, and then this will pop up. And then if you want to pin it, you can just, or you can go to all, but you can just pin this and then it will stay up for all of your lanes. I think it's pretty flexible. But yeah, to me, I don't know. Personally, to me, it's not any different. I think it's the same. What was something else that I missed from Ableton that I thought was really cool? Oh, the other cool thing, which I think is fucking sick, is where is it? I do want to talk about the new granular synth. There's no way for me to hear it, so there's that. But the new drum rack, like you basically have XO built within Ableton. That is awesome. That is so cool. I think that's probably another big hit from Ableton Live 12. Like, is it game changing? No, but for me personally, like I make all my drums randomly. So like I have all these percussion makers that I turn into kicks and snares and stuff, and like that's really cool. I'm like used to opening a bottom panel and I can look at both. Yeah, you can, technically. You can. I know, I mean, I guess it's what the edit button does. I'm considering trying Ableton 12 mainly because the MIDI tools, because FL MIDI tools is the best aspect of the DAW for me and I use it a lot. I think that might be a natural thing to try because I think that a lot of people are really happy, especially FL users, about the new MIDI stuff that you have in Ableton's new piano roll. And to be fair, Bitwig has probably on paper just as much MIDI stuff, if not more, but the difference is that it doesn't print the MIDI. So if I'm over here and I wanted to have like some crazy MIDI stuff like note effects or whatever, right? You've got your arpeggiator, you've got your echo, harmonize, all this stuff. But the difference between this is that you actually have to record this. So that's where things kind of get... Now, again, I guess if you have MIDI cap going on, so I don't know, maybe if I hit randomize or something and then we open up MIDI cap, let's see if this will actually record the MIDI. So I guess if you have MIDI cap, then there's that too, but it still has to be played out, right? You still have to listen to it before you can pull it into something else. So, you know, that is a factor. But I do think that if you have rolling sampler and if you have... I just have to be on the edit screen. Yeah. Sorry for disappearing into nothingness without warning. No, that's fine. But yeah, if you have rolling sampler and you have MIDI cap, then like the differences between the two become marginally like less. I am curious as to how the new distortion is going to sound. I don't really know what that's going to be. I do wish that Ableton had a dedicated transient shaper. I know that it has drum bus, but like the transient aspect of it is kind of weird. It doesn't really give you a lot of control over, say, like, I don't know, say Bitwig's is pretty nice, but any discussion on Reaper? No, I'm sorry. Read the title. This is Live 12 in Bitwig. Recently I heard that this new AI tool, it lets you turn humming into instruments. I hope they eventually integrate it into DAWs. Is that different than Vocla? No, I wasn't saying that, Zet. I was just saying like, hey, like, no, we're not going to talk about. I didn't mean to. If I made you feel bad, I didn't mean to. I promise. I was just trying to be silly. The latest video by Dennis really shows you how well the new MIDI tools work and so nice running in the piano roll. I heard that with the link button in Bitwig, you can now link Ableton to Bitwig, but I don't know how it works. Is it possible to use both DAWs at the same time and also route it into one master channel? I don't know. That's a good question. I've never heard of that before. I can say, like, I've also never used Ableton Live Link, so that would be a little bit outside of what I know, but I will say that you can open up Ableton projects in Bitwig. So it's kind of got a little bit of wonkiness to it, but it is really nice that you can do that. I just bought Silent 1. I know it's ancient, but I tried it and love the sound, so fight me. Why would you come in here and say, why would you come in here and say that you purchased something in order to start a fight? I mean, you're welcome here, and congrats on your purchase, but what? Huh? I mean, congrats on your purchase. I thought Bitwig has had Ableton Link for ages. I don't know if Ableton Update is overpriced or not. It seems like way too much for $180. The scale feature wins and makes perfect sense. More sense with real-time MIDI operator. That's why it's a must-have. I don't know. I can't really say whether or not, because I don't work that way. But you can open Ableton projects in Bitwig. I think I did just say that, right? Also, hi everybody. Thank you all so much for coming up and hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. You can, yeah. We don't fight. We don't argue. No, I'm just kidding. We love you. Can you perform live with Bitwig with the way that you can with Ableton? Yes. And I will say that it's actually better in Bitwig than it is in Ableton. I would love to have a scale feature. It would help my workflow. It was tongue-in-cheek, dude. Every review just says it's old. Here, smiley, I left out. Like session view? Yeah, so we have the clip launcher here. And the biggest difference between these two is that, well, there's two big differences. One is that you can have the clip launcher and the timeline together. But the other thing that Bitwig has the advantage over is that you can actually edit audio in the clips. So I can drag anything in here if I wanted to. So I can grab a kick. I can do my time stretching in here if I want to. I can do all of my pitching. I can do my operators if I want to. So I can go like this and be like, all right, this isn't going to play every time. Then I can duplicate this or make this clip longer. So the audio is completely, it's like having a second timeline within your audio events. And that's one thing that I have a video about this, but that's one thing that really turned me off to session view in Ableton is that you can't edit the audio in the clips. Yeah, well, not like a sampler, but just think of it as like a mini timeline, I would say. Yeah, the clips are stuck. I switched to Bitwig from Ableton a few days ago. It's night and day better, faster audio editing. It suits my workflow a lot better. I just feel naked without my Ableton racks and Max for Live devices. I felt that way too, Pocket, when I first switched in 2019. But you do get used to it. And I will say that if you're switching from either Bitwig to Ableton or Ableton to Bitwig, you kind of have to let go of what you're used to, unless if you're prepared to buy third-party effects. So for example, I bought Cytomic the Glue, which is the glue compressor from, well, Ableton has the Cytomic glue built into Ableton. I didn't know that, so I ended up buying the third-party version. Which one do I like better and why? I'm a Bitwig person. Doesn't Bitwig have racks like Ableton? Yeah, absolutely. Like a drum rack and 128s and all that? Yeah. But on that note, that's what's so cool about the new drum racks replacer is like, are you all familiar with 128 racks? It's a really old technique, but As cool as it is, the problem with it is that if you've got 8 cells of 128 samples, that makes your project files huge and takes forever to load. And live takes forever to load anyways. But if you just have a replacer, then like you don't have to do that anymore. You can just upload a set of 16 pads and then just hit replace, and then it will find new stuff for you. And to what degree of success is one thing, but that's fucking awesome. Can you split the chains inside device racks? Yes, you can. Any kind of workflow stuff like that between the two is almost the exact same. If something speaks to you and works for you, it's a win. It's that simple. Well, yeah, but I mean, I could have said that at the beginning and we could just call it a day, right? I think Ableton audio editing is really good, but I don't know about Bitwig. I'm not gonna lie. I think that the audio editing within within Bitwig is probably the best. Outside of Cubase's offline editing or whatever, which I don't know a lot about, but I mean, you can't do this. Hold on. There's another thing that you can't do in Ableton, which drives me crazy, but you can edit all the clips, right? We can swap it out. We can create this. We can also create our warp points if we want. So with the stretching, all that stuff, if we wanted to do that, we can go into our pitching. We've got formants that we can work with. Changing the audio, or sorry, the warp modes are over here on the left. And they finally added the transients, or like the beats mode, I guess, within the stretch HD, which is super cool. You can stretch this beyond 999 beats per minute, so this will go on forever if you wanted it to. That's one thing. And again, you can drag in other outside sources into an audio clip, which is great. So you add that, and then you have your chances and your operators and stuff if you want to create repeats. If you go right click, you can quantize the audio now, which they just added, which is great. It's got the normalize, which I think Ableton already has as well. It has slice in place. It also has slice at repeats. So if I want to slice this here, then I can do that. And then the biggest thing for me that probably pisses me off about Ableton more than anything is that if you are editing on the timeline, I think they just added this in Ableton if I'm not mistaken, but you used to not be able to do this. And the other thing that pisses me off, that just drives me fucking crazy, is that you have to pitch each sample one at a time. So you have to pitch here, or, you know, like some people don't like the inspector view, and I get that, but in Ableton, you have to double click in order to pull this up. You don't have to do that on this. You can just pull this up here, and I can highlight this and go, oh, I'm going to pitch all these up by 12. Oh, I'm going to pan these all randomly. Oh, I'm going to pitch these all randomly. So for what it's worth, I do think that like audio editing is my jam. That's how I make music. I am a resampling person at heart, if you've seen my channel. Bitwig's audio editing is the best. Automation is a pain too. It really is. I was just so annoyed that they still didn't add any kind of bounce and place options in the new Ableton update. We just talked about that, Pocket. My advice to you, hey kid, long time no see. My advice to you would be to get the rolling sampler, because then you don't even have to deal with any of that. Would you say it's like 1-to-1 objectively, or is one better than the other? That's the wrong question. No offense, but that's the wrong question to ask. I'm really just talking about the different feature sets between the two. The best advice that I can give you is to demo everything. Can you nudge clips out of the grid? Yeah, of course. So you can do that either by grabbing a clip like this and just rolling it off, or if you want to scrub, you can just hold this over and then you can do your nudging this way. I do it all the time. Picked up Rolling Sampler a couple weeks ago. Did it change your life? Linked clips in Bitwig would be great, but not like Pattern Mess in FL Studio. Are there not linked clips in Bitwig? Yeah, demo. I guess like the trade-off, but that's a good point, but the trade-off between linked clips is that you don't have ADS files in Bitwig, or sorry, ALS files, or is it, what are those stupid files that Bitwig creates in order to remember where everything is? That fucking drives me crazy. What are those things called? High key lurking. That's fine, Eddie. Welcome to the channel. Actually, I've seen you around before. Yeah, ASD files. So there's your trade-off, right? Can't try Ableton waiting in line for beta, which is not an issue for Bitwig. Yes, I'm waiting for the beta as well. Did I ever demo Studio One? No. Well, I did a long, long time ago, but it wasn't interesting to me, to be honest. I feel like I would love Bitwig, but I think Ableton is good enough for me to legitimize the switching. Wait, where are you coming from, Roke? The biggest thing about Bitwig compared to Ableton is dudes in Ableton are excited for new features that Bitwig has had for ages. Okay, let me stop you right there. Stop. Because so many things. Hi, Lane. My first DAW since 2009. Hope I understand things quickly. Thanks. I have a lot of tutorials. Feel free to dive in. People complain about wanting things from Bitwig and Ableton now, and everybody that's in Bitwig wants all the things from Ableton that it doesn't have now. So that's a two-way street. I wish Ableton had regions for song arrangement and batch rendering. Oh, that's a really neat idea. I didn't think about that. I'm just happy with FL sometimes. FL is great. I'm thinking about switching to Bitwig, but I'm visually impaired, so the interface sort of outdated. The skeuomorphism is made of different shades of gray, kind of mess me up. Does the black contrast mess you up too? I mean, you can make it white, but I don't know if that would help or not. ASD file is almost digital dust. It drives me crazy. Yeah, and if you delete it, your project's fucked. I just have all the DAWs except Pro Tools because, man, I mean, if you're a DAW collector, there's nothing wrong with that. And all these features are already for Cubase for 30 years, as always. Dude, Cubase is abysmal. I'm sorry. If they all have the same things, that would point out sort of like every car being a clone. Well, yeah. Some things just make sense, though, you know? And it's so weird that, like, everything, like, you can't have everything. Cubase is quite great, actually. I'm sure it is. I always say, like, if you can survive Cubase, then, like, you can survive any DAW, but I personally can't stand Cubase. They call me the DAW collector. And ASD files are ass. We're all different with different needs. Cubase, Let's Make Music Studio. I know, right? I'm not a Cubase hater. I'm not a Studio One hater. It's too hard for me. I'm not gonna lie. It's too hard. FL Studio's multiple arrangement versions of the same project would be great in Bitwig. Multiple arrangement versions? How does that work? Is that new to FL? FL multiple arrangements. The thing that like drives me crazy about FL is that there's so many fucking menus. And it works really well for some people. It does not work well for me. It's been around. Has anybody tried Luna? I have not tried Luna yet. They've had it for some years now. I just don't know about it because I don't use FL. The menus drive me crazy. Yeah, there's so many fucking menus to tab through. I mean, this is only a handful of them, but looking here, oh, that's neat. I mean, you could, I don't know. I do think that's cool. For me personally, if I want to make a different arrangement though, I'll just duplicate and move the project over and then just like create a new time signature. But for being clean, like, yeah, I could see that being useful. That doesn't really seem like something that I'm like, oh, I really need that though. But yeah, there's so many fucking menus. FL. You know what I do like about FL though? I actually really like how colorful it is. And I like that you can customize like the glossiness of FL and stuff. That's from an aesthetic perspective, there's some really cool things about it. And also FL Chan, I miss FL. If I can do it, anyone can do it. FL to me is very powerful, but annoying routing options. Workflow wise to me is really slow, but indeed powerful. Yeah, I mean, Patcher is something that is something like Patcher available in any other DAW? Like that's just basically like a free routing chain. But it's weird that like when you get into the mixer approach to FL, it's like you only have like what 12 effects, and then you have to send it to another mixing chain and then another mixing chain. I don't want to do that. I hate bussing, guys. I hate bussing. That's why groups are the shit. Groups are so much easier to work with. You want everything to go to one thing, you just Command G and there you go. FL's workflow is just bad. They need to work on that shit, but instead of implementing AI stem separation, Well, you got to realize, I think like the majority of people that probably use FL are trap, hip hop, you know, trying to get placements. Like, you know, there's some people out there, some really amazing, talented musicians out there that are not, that are using FL like for other things outside of that. But yeah, like, let's be real, right? 90% of FL tutorials now are like, you know, how to make trap drums. I'm going to start by opening up a sample pack. What can you say? Just the nature, though. They're reworking the mixer to make it unlimited slots. That's cool. Native AI sim separation is kind of goat, though. Agreed with the routing that automation are my big L's with FL. I have to use FL as a VST in Bitwig. Well, that's kind of cool, too. Oh, that's another thing that that Ableton has that I actually really miss. Yeah, that I actually really miss is that there's still no video editor within Bitwig. Back in the day, a few years ago anyways, I was using Ableton. I still have to use Ableton, but I love to recreate like sound design scenes from games. So like, what have I done? I've done Breath of the Wild. I've done Metal Gear Solid 2. I've done, what else have I done? I've done quite a few. But you can't do that in Bitwig. And they have like this half step thing, which is, I had to use VidPlay still with Bitwig. Does that even work? I haven't done Metroid, but I have done Breath of the Wild, and it was pretty decent. You can use Touch Designer, but yo, what up, bro? But it is kind of like, I don't know. I feel like it's a hassle to set up, and then I think that with Touch Designer, it also has like a lot of limited options because what do you get, like a year free or something? It's another thing that you have to download. It's another, you know, and I don't know. For me, VidPlay just doesn't. I don't. Yeah. I'd love to buy Ableton if it wasn't so goddamn expensive. Yeah, I feel that. It is expensive. Does anyone use Mixcraft on here? No, I don't. Wish you could color the track panels in Bitwig. The track panels? I mean, you can tab them, right? But no, I would like that. I actually really would like that too, to make these actually like fully colored. That would be very pleasing. I 100% agree with that. I use Max for Live's Woolbot for visuals, and Ableton recommended and pretty affordable. Live is more expensive than Cubase these days, which is nuts to me. Video I do in a separate thing. I find if you put everything in your DAW, it becomes a mess and bloated. But like, no, I disagree. I think it's fine. I think it's fine to do in Ableton. I didn't have any issues with it. Layering, sound design, resampling, like actual synthesis, all that stuff, it wasn't a big deal to me in Ableton. And you have to think about it too. Like, if you already have all the sounds together, then yeah, just use like, you know, just use a video editor, right? But if you're actually doing the sound design to the video per se, then to me, it's more important to have access to the sound manipulation tools than it is to just have an arranger that plays video back, you know, at a higher quality or something. 257 upgrade price to 12 suite from standard. That's the price of Bitwig, lol. There are really nifty Max for Live devices out there. I agree. Some of my favorites would be like Sabroy and Wolg. They make some really crazy stuff that I'm missing out on, but you know, what can you say? Bitwig, no brainer. I get that. If people find it expensive, just go onto a college course that enables you to get a student status. Then it's like around 400 USD. Well, also Black Friday, there's tons of content. Actually, does Ableton offer affiliate links for anybody? I don't think they do. Actually, Bitwig dropped their affiliate links too. So, well, they didn't drop their affiliate links, but they stopped giving discounts. So never mind that. But Black Friday, you know, sales. Hey, Albert, what's up? Does Bitwig have anything like Max for Live? Yes and no. It has the grid. It has the polygrid, which the polygrid is great. I have some issues with it, but it is really cool. Uh-oh. But yeah, you can create, you know, all different kinds of stuff on here. I'm trying to see if I have anything complicated. I don't think that I do. But I mean, yeah, you can create all different kinds of whatever on here. Polarity would be the person to do for this stuff. I personally don't like the grid because it's really inefficient, and I'm just not into it. Long story short, it's great, and I know how to use it to some extent. I can build synthesizers in it, but I don't like it. But what I will say is that I really wish that you had the ability to create a grid rack. So like, let's say I wanted to move just this top part to another place. I wish that I could right click and go like save group or something, right? But you can't, and that pisses me off. I just don't like modular, to be honest. I really don't. I like semi-modular, and I like having unlimited effects and whatnot, but I don't like trying to keep up with all the organizing and stuff. Yeah, grouping devices. Bitwig is pretty expensive too. If you don't update your support every year, you don't have to, obviously, but I just don't have to think about it. Yeah, and I guess that's the same with Ableton as well, though, right? So like, if you buy a version, like let's say you don't have either, and you just buy Ableton Live, and you have it for 3 years, right? It would still come out to be a little bit more expensive than Bitwig, I think, but the barrier of entry is less. But at some point, as these keep coming out, they're going to catch up to each other, right? I talked about this a long time ago with like the pricing of Bitwig versus Ableton and how many years it takes to whatever, but they will eventually even themselves out. I will say that the price of Bitwig has a much lower barrier of entry. And with both of them, you have to realize that you don't have to upgrade every time. So you can wait until like something comes out. Has anyone used current VST yet? Yeah, I already have a review on it, and I already have videos on it, future. I dipped my toes in Master Live and PD, and actually Grid is very easy to use. I don't think that it's difficult to use. It's slow. It's very slow. Well, there's Bitwig Rinse its own version in Splice. I think it's a nice option. So yeah, that's available too. And I think while you're rinsing, you constantly get the updates, right? Which they don't come out with updates that often. But if you have a plan to pay it off over the course of several years, then that might benefit you. Doesn't that apply to all DAWs? Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Did I read the Music Radar article that compares Ableton 12 and Bitwig? No, I'm just speaking from experience about like, I've been making music for about 10 years and I use Bitwig every day now, and I used Ableton for 6. So I'm just talking about like, hey, you know, here's that. Grid is good for MudPie sound design, ambient, some convolved note effect stuff. It can be if you have the patience to set it up, or I could just use Faceplant. You know what I'm saying? Like, or actually, I feel more compelled, as opposed to using the grid, you can just do all the same stuff within Bitwig's devices, right? So can I make a video on Bitwig's audio editing, like a complete in-depth tutorial? I mean, if people would watch my videos, then yeah, you might, or if you watch my videos, you might already know that I have a bunch of that already up. Faceplant is another Bitwig price-wise. Yeah, I have a playlist on my channel which is Bitwig tutorials. Just go look at all that. But yeah, I've covered. If you're wanting to learn stuff about like the grid and all that, I would send you to Polarity. I'd also probably recommend that you check out Dash Glitch. When it comes into device menus and actually like making music on here, that's like, I guess like the typical workflow stuff, that's where I've covered a lot of stuff really in depth. I'm asking because I wanted to hear what I thought about it. The writer thinks Ableton is faster, but I don't think they use Bitwig for long enough. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I really don't want to like comment on other people's opinions. I'm not gonna lie, that makes me shudder when people say that it's faster or whatever, but it's really about how you connect with the DAW, right? I will say that for audio editing, in my opinion, I don't think that Bitwig can be beat. But I'm deciding between Cablebox and Infiltrator 2. Do I have any insights? I'm also looking for a multi-band compressor. Are you looking for an OTT kind of multiband compressor, or are you just looking for a multiband compressor? I would recommend Infiltrator 2 over Cable Guys. I wouldn't say it's a must. And if you don't have phase plant or you don't have multipass or snap heap, I'd say get that over Infiltrator. It'll take you further. And then, as Albert says, I use Fuse compressor for my multiband, like OTT style compression. Reaper is king in audio editing for me. I am not here to rob you of that opinion. I'm here to respectfully disagree. Yeah. The problem though is that, like, and thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. This is probably the biggest audience that I've ever had. But yeah, like people keep coming in and then like bringing up older topics and stuff. So I'm just going to try to keep it pushing. But yeah, we already covered it. Long story short, wavetable synthesis to me is just like using all other synths, and hybrid wavetable is just like reinventing the wheel of digital programming within a synth. Sort of. I mean, at the end of the day, you are able to shape harmonics and stuff, but there are some things that you just can't get from wavetable. Keep on pushing. Hit the like button, guys. Yeah, 81 watching. Can't do group editing in Bitwig for live drums, unfortunately. You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that? So group editing has a lot of indicators, but for one, you absolutely can do group editing to where you can slice everything at once. If you open this up and you go into the layer tab here within your tracks, then you can absolutely do group editing. We just need to figure out where this is. Audio 4. Snare, audio 3, so you say shift tab. Oh yeah, there you go. Or you can do it in this view. I love both, but Bitwig connects with my gears more while I move. Modulators are absolutely crazy. I do prefer Bitwig. There are some things that I really miss from Ableton. I do miss the native retrospective recording. I like that I can just hit the capture button and then that'll come out. I miss a lot of the devices from Ableton. So Ableton can't even look at 2 audio clips, only MIDI. True. Does Ableton have MIDI comping? I'm not sure about that. That would be something I'd have to check out. Works like a charm with MIDI out too. Can I go over multipass and snap heap over Infiltrator? I have snap heap, not Infiltrator though. Dude, snap heap is like your one-stop shop to all of your multi effects. I would, you know what? Let's do this in another video though. I might even do like an Infiltrator versus like multipass and snap heap or something. But just know that you can go way deeper with snap heap because it has unlimited effects and virtually unlimited modulators, whereas Infiltrator has like 10. So you can get some really fast results with Infiltrator, and it's got some effects that are not within snap heap. But to be honest with you, like the kilohertz bundle is really all I use, pretty much. Does anyone use Bitwig for making bass music like Deathstep and Minatory, and is Faceplant good for creating those kind of nightmarish basses? I don't make music like that, but I do make extremely distorted sounds. And yes. How long was I on Ableton for? Me? 6 years. What I miss in Ableton is step recording MIDI, just by pressing right. Yeah, that seems pretty cool. How about a step sequencer in general, right? Like, I have an Oxy 1. This thing, fuck you guys, I love this thing. This little Oxy 1 sequencer, I'm the kind of person that's like almost 100% audio. But when it comes into like getting my idea started and all that, like I love this thing. This thing is so 100%. I don't have any affiliate links for you. Does Oxy print MIDI? Yes, it does. It can. There's a sick Max for Live sequencer for Ableton. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, you're right. I'm sure. And you can build one inside of the MIDI grid as well. I just don't like it. Ableton MIDI comping does not exist. You can make any kind of music in any DAW. I personally think Bitwig lends itself to really well experimentation and sound design, just like Cubase. So like, some people say that, and I really want to turn people away from that idea. I really like it makes me cringe, not from you particularly. Love my Oxy. See, yeah, Oxy fan. Infiltrator slash Shaperbox, and then Snap Heap though. Sometimes the ease of use down the interface. I guess. I mean, you can have any kind of skin that you want within Snap Heap, but look, hold on. Let me go to a new thing. Okay, okay, I get it. Yeah, maybe it is a little bit off-putting, but you can just. I'm gonna try not to look. Unfortunately, I'm not that suave with pulling shit up. Okay, so look, now you go random, mix, filter. Oh shit. I don't know what that was. Is that a new update or something? Drive. Look, I just made a custom rack. It's not that hard. And if you want to make duplicates of it, you can do that. If you want to do parallel routing, you can do that. Like, this is why I think Bitwig and Ableton need an overhaul with their device menu, which is like the first thing that I opened up with. But being able to have multiple lanes like this, and then you can put Snap Heap and Multipass inside of that. So look, I can save this as example. Now look, we go in here, we open this up, I type in example. And now I've got this rack inside of this rack. So like, this will take you further. This will take you so much further than any of the other ones. You can, I guess, technically like duplicate Infiltrator and stuff, but having everything being able to be contained within a single rack, you're right, rack within rack within rack. I just can't, I can't recommend this enough. That's what I'm saying. That's what I would like personally, Sven. Also, if you press the headphone icon on the piano roll and then hold shift while pressing a note, you can print a note and change it via the arrow keys on Bitwig or Ableton. Bitwig 8 track for anyone that needs. Oh shit, good luck. Whoever wants it. It would be really cool to patch third-party stuff inside the grid too. Yeah, that's definitely been like a common request, to where I think Patcher is the only thing that can currently do that, if I'm not mistaken. To me, when I first heard or saw it, I was very skeptical at first, but getting the demo or FL, like where you release something like that, if they crack down on it. Wait, what? English? That's not group editing. In Reaper, you can group tracks to keep all edits in sync. Are you talking about like what? If you pitch one thing, then you can pitch them all, because you can do that too. So if I were to highlight all these clips and go pitch up, then you can pitch them all together too. I don't know, maybe I'd have to look it up, but yeah, I can't. I'm trying to think about what scenario you're talking about to where that would be necessary. Like, I know you said within live drums and stuff, but I'm still a little confused as to like what the difference is between the two. So forgive my ignorance, but I don't know. To me, that's, yeah. Snap Heap is still free in Bitwig Circle, yes. If you want to edit 8 audio files on 8 different tracks at once, there is plugin data. Do I use multi MIDI channels for my templates? I do with the Oxy 1 sequencer. So if you look here in my sidechain thing, this little group right here has all my all different kinds of sequencers or different MIDI channels for each of the stuff that's on here. Kick, mic, snare hats, overheads, etc. Snap Heap and Multipass are 100% worth it. I agree. Do I think Snap Heap / Multipass is worth it if you don't have Carve or Slice EQ? Yeah, even with just the filters. 100%. Rewind retrospect records audio and MIDI. Hey NX, what's up? Morphe-Q is the bomb. I think it's okay. There's some things that I don't like about it, but M-X-X is also great. I think M-X-X is the only alternative to Maximus from FL Studio. I think that's the only thing that does what Maximus does, if I'm not mistaken, but it is very expensive. Another win for Bitwig is that you can create custom keyboard shortcuts in almost everything, whereas Ableton is limited in this area. That's true. Blue Cat Axiom, for example, can load VSTs, but isn't it limited and like does it have modulators or does it just load? You know what I'm saying? It's like if it doesn't have the workflow that Snapheap and Multipass do to some degree, then it kind of like, you know, you could just have multiple VSTs within a group or something, right? So you can just go phase plant and then be like, do. You know what I'm saying? So like, if it's like that, then that, to me, that's not a lot different. Get Live Enhancement Suite. It's free and can add some amazing workflow like shortcuts. I had it when I had Live 10. It was okay. Also, in Bitwig, a single plugin crash doesn't crash the DAW. That's true. The options defined for stuff you can actually bind to a key leaves little to be desired. Crash protection saved my life. I remember being so mad at Ableton for not being able to change your key shortcuts. Do I have specific color coding for my instruments or do I just leave them as is? It didn't. Yeah, I think what I try to focus on instead of actual color coding is just contrast. So like if I've got like a bunch of drums or whatever and I need to know the difference between a kick and a snare or something, then I'll try to just make those contrasting, but I don't have like synesthesia or anything. Yes, you are right. An FX instrument is the same kind of. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm caught up with chat. How long did it take me to adjust from Bitwig to Ableton, or to Bitwig from Ableton? Like 3 months. Ableton has like 7 collections max, I think. That's crazy. Also, freezing and flattening by mouse clicks is so frustrating. I do think that freezing and flattening is really fucking archaic. Like some people are just like, well, you can just freeze and flatten. And I'm like, bro, like, I hate to say it, but you live under a rock. I think that one key difference I almost feel like Ableton should embrace, as opposed to adopting Bitwig's bounce in place, is just offline editing. Have they changed that? No, they haven't. They haven't. But I think offline editing would probably be the way to separate itself, because that would actually create a very big difference behind all that. But I don't think that Ableton will, because it's on extremely old code. I'm glad that I got Bitwig when you did. I'm using it more than Ableton now for finishing stuff. That's awesome. I don't know. I don't care what you all use. Like, I just want you all to have a good time, and I want you all to be informed about like what has what. Other than that, like, I still have Ableton. It's still on my desktop. I just don't use it. I can work on a laptop just fine without deleting tracks. In Bitwig, you simply deactivate the track. Right, and it will save you CPU. With Ableton, it does not do that. But again, like, if you have a rolling sampler or something, then... Do I have an answer for Ableton drum bus? For Bitwig? For first party or third party? This would be my answer. Oh, there's tons of stuff. SSL drum bus? Well, I guess if you want to go analog, then yeah. But if you look at Decap's knock plugin, it's almost like it's pretty much drum bus. It's got a transient enhancer, slight amount of distortion. There's no compression on here, I guess, but it has the sub generator, it has an exciter, and then it has a soft clipper. So what I would do now, especially with Bitwig's latest update, which finally has a fucking soft clipper built into it. Yes, Bitwig, thank you. Is filter plus. So here's your clipper right here with either push or heat. Both of them will clip, and then you can adjust your transient shaping here. Thanks for the knock. Man, I might have to peep the demo of Bitwig. Jesus, it's $80. It should be on sale for Black Friday. What are you? What DAW are you in, Convergent? Because the other alternative. Oh, there's also Slap. Yeah, I do have Slap as well. Shout out to Yum Audio. They sent me all their plugins. So there's Slap. It's by Mr. Bill. Very similar. I don't know how expensive it is, but there's that. I have a video comparing the two. Both Ableton and Bitwig. Oh. Then just okay. Hold on. If you're trying to make your shit like fucking slap, then this is what I would go for. Let me pull up Ableton. Hold on one second. Slap's $45 right now. I want to go Bitwig with just a few things that I can't go fast with yet. I'm happy to help you. Happy to help you with whatever. That's what my channel is for. I teach pretty much two things now. I teach Bitwig and I teach Faceplant. That's kind of become the center of my channel. And honestly, if something else like badass comes up, then I'll use that too. But I haven't seen anything yet. So what I would go for is, where's my saturator at? Here you go. Maybe an EQ. Some kind of EQ at the beginning or so. This would be my drum bus. And what you want to do is hit that on. And most people, I didn't realize this, but most people like use compression at the end of the chain. I would actually go for a saturator instead, but I would do some kind of parallel compression with this. Long attack. And also I make very specific kinds of drums, but fuck. Something right here to where it's hitting like minus 10 to 15. Adjust the drive, obviously, blah, blah, blah. A drum bus, but that's a cool idea to have the saturator at the end. Well, no, it's just, it's achieving clipping. This would be for, I would do this process pretty much for my kick, my snare, and my drum, actually on my drum bus, like actually just drums, I would probably just have the saturator. I would just clip it. So what does that look like in Bitwig? A very similar process. Yeah, I'm just using the clipping part for the saturator module. The clipper, right? Where was this? So if I'm going to do, I use third-party effects, but if I were to have to do this within Bitwig, I'd probably use EQ Plus, because I think that they finally fixed the latency issue. Then I would go for some kind of distortion, which would probably be Filter Plus as well. I really like the distortion models in here, so any of these, you'd be fine. But actually push this, turn this off, and actually crank this to wherever it is that you want it to go. You can also use saturator if you wanted to. I don't really like saturator. It's cool, but I don't vibe with it, so I just go for that. Probably dynamics. And what you might want to do with dynamics is set this into a group like this and run this in parallel, kind of like so. That's a cheat code. So if you have an effect, and that's why I like the effects layer a lot, is if you have an effect and it doesn't have a mix knob on it, just go there. And then probably another Filter Plus. There's my clipper, and then my transient control. I don't know, something kind of like this, perhaps. And you import impulse response and can read the characteristic. Wait, what? I heard the new Pro R has even less CPU. Yeah, it has a convolution built into it. The stock preset for saturator makes little sense to be stock. Why is it asymmetrical? I don't know. So Bitwig has racks pretty much. The workflow is almost exactly the same. You can also hard clip at the very start of the chain to trim peaks that aren't audible, but it would trigger the compressor etc. I feel like you would, in my experience, I would want to shape the drum first and shape the timbre of it and then clip at the end, because if you clip at the beginning, even once it hits the compressor, if you start to boost the volume of it, it's going to go over that 0 dB mark. So I always opt to have the clipping at the end. You can clip it at the beginning too if you want, but for me personally and for trying to save my ears, and just like overall like round the drum shape out, I would try to go for clipping at the end. Pro R is easy to use, not my favorite for flavor, but it's very transparent reverb. I don't have Pro R2. I might grab it at some point, but I don't know. We'll see. I'd really like Pro Q4. That would be nice to be able to have control over the dynamics of the dynamic EQ. That'd be sick. You can just make your own default. Yeah, as like default preset or whatever. But I do agree, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So even with this though, everybody, like my chain, I'm not going to explain it, but I'm just going to show you what this looks like. If I'm going to shape a drum, this is what I use. Like every time. Maybe, sometimes transient control, sometimes not. This to, and then newfangled saturate. And then on here, I'd have some kind of mid-side. If you guys want to know more about this stuff, I have master classes on it. That's why I'm not really trying to get into it. But this is generally how I shape my kicks and my snares, and then percussive stuff, I usually just might add some transient shaping to it or whatever. Check out the new scalar EQ, very musical and cool. Do I have a saved template for effects chain? I usually do everything from scratch, but I do. I do have some like effect rack chains or whatever. But there's a mid-side container. Is Ozone still a thing? Yes. Custom shortcuts in Bitwig is a workflow enhancement compared to Ableton's. Wait, what do you mean by control over the dynamics, like the attack and release? Just the differences between the loud and quiet parts of the sound. Fuck, I want to buy some stuff, but so much different shit that I want and don't have a lot of money. Yeah. Shaperbox just added a reverb module with ducking, multi-band control, impulse loader. Can I elaborate on the mid-side EQ part? I mean, really, it's just a matter of like making your shit wider, but the trade-off with it is that it doesn't translate to mono. So what you want to focus on is making sure that your mono signal is like a really rewind for retrospective recording. Are you talking about audio, or are you talking about monkey rewind? I would recommend rolling sampler. I think it's cheaper, and I think that, I don't know, I just like it. It looks really cool. Like, wouldn't it be awesome, just as a side note, if Bitwig brought back the rainbow? Like, the rainbow from Bitwig 3 was so fucking cool. I really miss it. And I love that the rolling sampler has it. That's a huge win. I don't know, rainbows are dope. Okay, hold on a second, everybody. So with mid-side, you want to make sure that your middle signal, because that's what's going to translate through any system, is going to have a really good transient. It's going to have a really good like punch, and basically the whole drum needs to be complete. But to add some magic, or to add some polish, or just some flavor, you can use mid-side processing and put stuff on your side signal that can be stereo effects that will give you a little bit more texture, and you can go crazy with side effects because it's not going to affect your middle signal. So that's why that's way better. Sometimes the audio engine stops in Bitwig. How do I fix it? Are you on beta? That would be my next question. The rainbow thing in Bitwig, so they kept it within the EQ, but all of the knobs used to be rainbow. Rolling Sampler is a free script for Reaper. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that, it was developed in Reaper, I believe. Kirchhoff EQ if you want your typical compressor features on dynamic bands. Ableton doesn't let you pipeline MIDI like in Bitwig, right? Like it's a big, okay, so that's something that Ableton doesn't have, which is MIDI through. So, which fucking sucks. Well, is annoying, I guess, and I don't really mention that enough. But if you wanted to have MIDI effects, I know, right? Me too. Tell Bitwig. If you want to have MIDI effects, say like Scalar 2 on Ableton, then you have to create a MIDI channel, then you have to create another MIDI channel, and you have to tell this instrument to read from the Scalar 2 MIDI channel. So it would be something like this, which you can do in this too, but in Bitwig, all you do is you put it right before, and then you put on something, I don't know, FM4, and then it just works. So give me 1 second. I'm not going to create some chords or whatever, but just as an example, it's really nice that you can just... So raise your hand if you like color bass. So where this gets even more crazy is you can place VSTs, or you can place virtual instruments inside of vocoders, kind of like so. And I can put phase plant as a carrier for my vocoder. So I don't know, I could go, I've got videos on this, everybody, but you can essentially use this, and because this has MIDI through, sorry, we want to be here, I believe. We can actually use this entire thing in order, and I don't know if it's going to sound cool or not, right? Because there's that, but we can actually use this to trigger MIDI inside of here. We would probably want to adjust this, but so what I would likely do is find something that is more musical, or maybe even just use for conventional sake, like just do something new. I'm not really going to try to do something, make something cool. I think that it's more of just a matter of like, hey, you can do this. But if you have something that is, I don't know, say something like that. Then you can use that and change the formants and stuff. Which is awesome. And you can also send MIDI in here, or have this trigger MIDI. So you can do like a multi-note if you wanted to as well, which will also trigger. So let's say you only have like one single note. Well, this will create a chord through this, which is, you know, obviously it sounds like shit, but so if you do have something that might be kind of interesting, maybe like, hold on 1 second. Melody generator, or maybe pull up Elysium, because this will have a bunch of shit in it that might be kind of cool. The MIDI through will carry through everything. Can't remember when they were Rainbow. It was in beta 3. I see you don't try to double click the VSTs on the list and just click OK. I wish they'd fix the list moving after the first click. I usually just hit enter. I don't know. You can just double click if you want to. List moves slightly, it doesn't always work. Oh, I see. Yeah, it kind of like adjusted itself just now. I didn't notice that, but I'm aware of it now. I don't know, it doesn't really bother me, but I understand. That's like a very, very quality of life thing to maybe take a look at. So yeah, what else was there that I really missed from Ableton? I really missed the saturator and soft clipper as well. I'm really happy that Bitwig finally has one, but I just am very used to using I guess I use third-party effects now, but for the person that maybe doesn't have all of these for drum building and stuff, then there's that. But I do think that that MIDI thing and the drum thing is a pretty compelling reason to maybe give that a look. What's the best Bitwig course to get hands-on help? Well, hi, my name's Alckemy. Welcome to the channel. No, I don't want to call myself the best. I don't think that I'm the best, but I could answer most of your questions. Do I have a chain selector in the groups? I don't have one, but but you can select a selector, or you can make one. So if I went to effect selector, you can also do either effect selector or instrument selector. Hey, Signal. Oh, yeah, why doesn't Ableton have a built-in frequency splitter? That's another thing. This should be like, I feel like every single DAW should have this. I totally forgot that this exists, but yeah, that should be a thing. But yeah, with this effect selector, we can put a comb, we can do something like this. And what's really cool is that you can actually modulate this when you select. So if I want to pick this one, you'll see, I just got to click on these, but these also have different behaviors. So if you go to, round robin, free voice, random other, key switches, CC, then you can set this up to have some kind of behavior. But what you can also do is set a modulator on this, say like an LFO or whatever, to cycle through all of these, which is really neat. So if we go like this and then we hit up, you have to hit up because for some reason up means down. I don't know why it does that, but you can toggle between all of these, which is really cool. Yeah, and you can do the same with instruments. I would be tempted to go back to Ableton just for the new MIDI features, but I left it because it crashes constantly on me lately. Yeah, you can do XY as well. That's 100% true. Actually, I think that you can do like, what is it, Vector 8? Yeah, so you can set these devices to like have up to 8 different cross pads for this. Up means down. It's like a chick. What? Ableton has been crashing on me. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I can't really there's nothing really to say about that. Ableton has always been notorious for not being the most stable, unfortunately. I will say though, like when it comes to betas, Bitwig is fucking broken. At least for the first few betas. Like the first 3 betas, it's so like you gotta strap on and be prepared because it's gonna blow up on you, at least I don't know. But once it gets to its stable like release, it always smooths itself out, and with every like subsequent beta release it gets better. But yeah, usually the brand new betas are just like, in my experience, that's been like the major times that I've lost some like important projects. If it was a blessing in disguise for me because I'm happy I switched to Bitwig now after getting used to it. What do I think about the Bitwig MIDI 8? Oh, I'm sorry, Jared. I saw that you asked about that. So I don't have an issue with the browser. It does take a little bit of setup, but I actually think that the MIDI editor in Ableton has a lot of really cool new features. That's actually what I talked about at the very beginning of the stream. And what I like about Ableton's MIDI editor now is that with all the morphing and stuff, you can actually print the MIDI into the clip. Excuse me. There's a huge amount of MIDI stuff that you can do within Bitwig, but it's all within the devices, and it's not until you actually record the MIDI that you actually have that. Don't use Bitwig betas for production. Honestly, like that's my cardinal sin of EDM. I just, anytime I open the DAW and if I get inspired to make music, I'm gonna make music. So cool features, bro, but Bitwig can do it better. Yeah, but it doesn't print the MIDI. Now, something that is cool about the MIDI editor on here is that it has a few of them. It doesn't have any scales. I don't know if that's important to you or not. To me, that's like a very, I don't know, I feel like that's a beginner feature, which there's nothing wrong with that because beginners should be welcome too, right? So, not trying to discount anybody, but for me, I'm in a different place with what my needs are. But the operators and stuff that you have, I don't, does Ableton Live 12 have this? I don't really know, but it's kind of there, but it's also not, because it only has whatever is within the inspector control, right? Now on one end, it's cool because within this clip, we can grab a seed and then we can expand the takes. And there's one weird thing about this, but in order to expand the takes, we have to drag it into the clip launcher. But if we go expand, we can actually make a bunch of different versions of this this clip. And now you'll see that on here, we've got a bunch of like small different changes on here. I didn't really do that much to change it, so it might not be that noticeable, but it does do that. But I don't think that it does it to the extent that Ableton does, based off of the modulators and whatnot, or the new effects, the MIDI effects that are cooked into the MIDI editor, which I think is pretty sick. That was also a thing in Ableton, by the way. What was? You could print MIDI, but it requires a little bit of step in routing. Are you talking about just setting up a routing channel? Like, I don't want to, I'm not talking about that, because if at the end of the day, you can just use MIDI cap. So Master Live support in the clip view looks nice as well. The Euclidean sequencer, for example, also really excited to see what Master Live devs come up with. Yeah, I agree. I think 12 has probability, but not as in-depth as Bitwig's operators. MIDI cap, no cap. Yeah, I'm not sure. And it's hard to tell. And I appreciate you guys like allowing me to like speak on this, because I haven't been able to try Ableton Live 12 yet. There's no way for me to access it. The beta is not available. There's a waiting list, and it's not coming out until next year. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, forgive me. But there's still some things that I think need to be addressed between both DAWs that I would prefer anyways, or things that I would hope that they would add in a future update that, like, you know what I mean, kind of makes up for that. It's not like I've never opened up Ableton or like I've never used it or something. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like speculation to some extent, except for the features that they still have not added yet. I'm always impressed by the small improvements that Bitwig devs introduce in each update, as well as the big stuff. You can tell they're invested in making every detail as good as possible. In my experience, I went to NAMM earlier this year and I met with them. I was telling them a lot of the stuff that we had discussed today. A lot of the new features that have come out, as far as like the clipper and some of the other things, they listened to a lot of the suggestions that I'm not going to say came from me, I'm going to say from the community, and found their own way to implement it. They haven't done everything, which I don't expect them to do everything, but the customer relation, I think, is a lot closer. Whereas with Ableton, like, I don't even know who to contact about this kind of thing, or who to get in touch with, or I'm sure that they have some kind of feature request or whatever, but like, I'm pretty sure they're swamped. I'm team Bitwig until the ship sinks. I don't know. I think that, like, it's always about what's most efficient for me. You know, like, if it's more efficient for me to make music in my iPad one day, then I'll do that. It's actually extremely efficient for me to sound design in the iPad, because I can literally sit on my couch and use all my FabFilter goodies. They just came out. Somebody just released a Culture Vulture drum processor, so I can make drums in Drambo and, you know, bounce them out and send them over here. But it's about, like, how do I get away from the technical shit as fast as possible, so that way I can just create. That's what I'm about. In the piano roll, and yet DAWs are just starting to think, hey, maybe we should make more creative MIDI features quick and painless. I totally agree. And that's something that I feel like if you have an iPad, I definitely recommend that you like get maybe like 1 or 2 apps or something, but some of the interactivity on the iPad makes that process a lot more fun. And that's why I don't really use the grid, is because like it's super cool by all means. I've seen some people do some absolutely insane shit. Polarity is a great example of that, but it takes so long to set up. Like, I'm not going to spend 4 hours trying to set this shit up just so that way I can be like, you know, look at this Hocket machine. I can make a Hocket machine in 2 seconds and so many other ways. I don't have to be the best and like the most knowledgeable at everything. To me, it's about making good music. And if you're about Hocket machines and you're about fucking around and all that stuff, like there's definitely a time and place for that. And sometimes I do want to do that, but like if you look at the kind of things that I make, especially in regards to like Faceplant or whatever, everything that I create should be a means to an end to get exactly what you need for your music. And this is just a philosophy thing. I don't expect everybody to agree with me, but like it's ironic because I make music by doing modular jams, right? But oh, your name is Ian, not Lane. I'm so sorry. Yeah, my name is Ian. Welcome to the channel. But you know what I'm saying? It's like we're at the point now, at least I'm at the point where I'm using Faceplant to make everything that I need for an entire track. If you guys look at, we're doing a 30-day beat challenge. 90% of all of the tracks that I've made are through a single Faceplant patch. And that's kind of like, it's really cool. And I don't think people need to do this, but my technical hurdles are, I need to find drums. I need to find a lead. I need to find a bass. I need to find this. I need to find this. I need to find this. And so like my annoyance of being like, okay, I need a kick. No. And I might not ever find it, kind of drove me to just like be like, all right, let's create everything. Let's really figure out how to get as many ideas as possible that in order to be able to like do that. Miss in place. Interesting. Avenger 2 looks like an all-in-one device with a sick piano roll. I haven't used Avenger 2 yet, but I don't think that it's quite up to par with what I'm doing here. Am I using native Bitwig synths at all anymore then? Yeah, I use a sampler quite a bit. Sometimes I'll use Polymer. Praise the efficiency. Just came out 2 days ago. Right, efficiency and speed, you know, and this is my version of having shit ready to go. So the way that I make music, if anybody's curious, is I make a sequence and then I do a modular jam with a device like this. And in this, I make my kicks, my snares, my percussion, my bass phrases, my melodies, my pads, because it does everything. And that's part of the beauty of it. And because of that, I can not have to spend time like being like, oh, now I need a bass. Oh, now I need this. And I just find phrases that work. So I don't have anything prepared, but just a quick tour about how all this shit works. Like... Okay, great. I got some basses. Okay, so I've got something that's kind of like a lead or a pad. This is going to create some more depth. Okay, I need some plucks, so we're going to get that out of here. Okay, great. So we got that. Now I need some kind of texture, so we'll turn on the ghost knob. So great. Now I need a sub. So if this isn't working because it's a granular thing, then I can just use this and turn this up. Cool, I got my sub. Now I need my percussion. So I didn't realize I had the spacing knob on, but so what I'll do is I'll just finagle with this until I find a kick and a snare or something that kind of sounds close. Okay, cool. And then I'll just pull that out from here. And so now not only do I have my percussion, but I also have something that's kind of reminiscent to a kick and snare. And then once I have that, I'll just go and make it into a kick and snare with that stuff that I showed you. So from this, like, it makes everything, right? It makes everything that I need. And there's also a bunch of other stuff down here that I've like done in order to customize it even more. But because this is semi-modular, I can swap this out for like a granular patch, or I can use a different wavetable. I can make a different wavetable. I can, this is where the real beauty of this comes in, and this was by my design. If you guys check out the Eternum patches, then it's kind of like the brainchild of that, but I can load up a completely different rack that's still mapped to a macro. So let's say I don't like, for whatever reason, I don't like the bassy knob, right? I can just open this up. Actually, what I'll do is I'll turn this off and I'll pull up another instance of multipass like this and go into any of my Eternum series or whatever and be like, okay, let's go to the deep echoes thing. Let's map that. And now look, I've got a whole nother rack that is ready to go that does neuro stuff. So, or I'll load one of my 8,000 wavetables in Polymer and see where it goes. Yo, here on another level this year. I still have a lot to learn with phase plant, but I'm really pushing the boundaries for sure. If my M1 Max is saying ouch, you know what I mean, then I'm really pushing the boundaries of this shit. So yeah, so like you have an insane amount of customization and I don't need anything else now, right? Like, so if you take this approach and then you use the rolling sampler to get all your shit, and then you've got a sequencer, like you've got everything that you need to make music. And the reason why I like this is because it's still randomized. It's still going to be like, you're never going to get the same sound twice. It might be similar, it might be extremely close, but you're never going to get the same thing twice. And then if you want to get really experimental, turn them all on. No, this is my life's work right here. This is what I built my career off of. I make patches like this, and then I put them up for sale. Requiem 2 will be available probably December 1st or December 2nd. But I mean, I have a bunch of patches already up for sale, and then I have demos on everything. So nobody buy anything, please. Don't buy anything. Go watch the demos and just see if it's a fit for you. That's all I'm going to say on that matter. But what I'm getting at is that, and this workflow was taught to me by somebody, but basically what they do is they create a sequence, right? I actually have a sequencer built in to this. It's a pseudo sequencer. So if you turn this on and you open this up, this is an LFO table. So you can actually make melodies with an LFO table in a remap. You can only do one key at a time though. So you might want to change the polyphony to 1. I've got a video on this, so if you want to go further in depth, but then you can actually do something kind of like that. And if you want to change the melody, then you can go in here and use your stepper. Sorry, to use this. We need to go to magnet. And what the fuck? I guess you could do that. I wouldn't recommend it though, but what the hell? Sorry. Hold on. There we go. So you can just create different steps like this. And this will create a melody for you. And then you use the remap in order to make it set itself into a key, right? So right now, this melody is going to play in a Phrygian mode. So it's not a true sequencer. I would like to see some kind of step sequencer within phase plan at some point. I don't think that it's possible to keep like the clean workflow of having everything in one tab, which is why I like phase plant. But at the same time, it is pretty cool. So yeah, then you can just morph, right? And then you get really fucking sick shapes like this, which I've never seen this before. But look at that. That's so cool. So yeah, if you don't like the melody, then you just make a new one and then but say you do have a hardware sequencer. Yes, which I do. what do I think about UVI Falcon? I mean, this thing is crazy deep as well. I don't really understand it. I just know you can do much with it. A kilohertz standalone sequencer would be sick. Yeah, I agree. But then they'd have to get into like MIDI modulators and stuff. I don't know. I'm all about it. I'm all about a kilohertz ecosystem, to be honest. But and let's say I do have the patches. Go watch any of my streams where I make music, and you'll like, that's what I do. Every single tune that, not every single tune, but the large majority of all the music that I've made in the past 6 months have been from this. I don't like UVI Falcon. And the reason why is because it's, hey Steve-O, it's such a fucking pain in the ass to use. Like, it can do some insane crazy stuff. It can run scripts. It can, it's got crazy synthesis options. It's got basic synthesizers. I don't think that it goes nearly as deep as something like Faceplan or whatever, but also unlimited effects. The workflow behind it sucks. That's the thing. The routing behind it fucking blows. But it's not meant to do what we're doing in Faceplan. It's meant to be an alternative to Contact, to create like a multi-timbral library that can have multiple layers. I really like what Falcon does. They have great presets, great sounds, but it is abysmal to use. It is so slow. And like adding modulators and all that stuff is just, it sucks, man. It sucks. I can't stand it. Contact is also dog shit, but it's great for presets, right? It's great for expansions. It's cool for multi-samples, I think. That's what I'm saying. I agree. Seems like that's the new workflow. Sound bank to pull from, play chop, play structure, EQ, then add layers. I mean, that's what I do. That's the workflow that was taught to me, but I have this mindset that you can make any kind of sound out of anything. You can't make any sound into any sound, but you can make any kind of sound into any other kind of sound. Do you all understand the difference when I say that? I don't know if that makes sense or not, but you can turn anything into a pad. You can turn anything into a bass, into a kick. It might not be great, but it will be unique. And from that's what I've learned from sound design as a whole. And that's why I make patches like this, because that's why I bought Synthplant. I think Synthplant is okay. I have a review on that as well. It's not my favorite, but I think that it's interesting. But that's what the approach to this is supposed to be. It's supposed to say, hey, here is a playground. This is not a preset. This is a playground in which for you to explore. And every time you open it up, you're supposed to get something different. This is like my anti-preset bank of presets, because I want to like not be like, what's iconic? Speaking of Silent One, that very first fucking preset that you open up, the right? But we all know that. Like with this stuff, I want it to be something that like is going to be so fucking unique when you pull something out of it that like you can't tell that it was made by me. I'm more of a patch tweaker myself too, though I like to use my own patches whenever I can. What I do miss about Ableton is being able to hold down a chord on a MIDI keyboard and just hit the right keys to add the notes to the piano roll and extend them. Can you do that in Bitwig? I don't think that you can do that. Yeah, I don't think you can do that in Bitwig. Yeah, I didn't think so. But yeah, I mean, and really, here's the thing, like this modular jam is great or whatever, but you can absolutely do this within Bitwig. I'm trying to curate an alternative. There's no way that I'm going to be able to make something as in-depth as this within Bitwig devices, because imagine me doing what I did there on FM4. You know what I mean? Even if I create like a multi-timbral thing, whatever, like it would be a fucking nightmare to set up. But that being said, the caveat of that is you can, in theory, create a jam. It's not very difficult. Maybe a key filter. And this is probably where I feel like people should be going if you're remotely into Bitwig at all whatsoever. Maybe not, but if you're into sound design or whatever, you should be thinking modular. But it doesn't need to be like grid modular. It could be something that's like I don't know. I'm just going to start with these two for now, actually. Something that's like semi-modular, kind of like this, right? I hate, it's weird because when I first got Bitwig, I loved that this had the device menu, and I would still prefer this workflow over any other DAW. But I do think that every single DAW workflow, when it comes into device manipulation, is archaic. It annoys me. Long story short. But that being said, you know, let's say I wanted to do like filter plus. You can create a modular jam out of this that's going to do something different every time. And that's what you should be looking to do to have fun, right? So we've got something that's moving here. Maybe what I can do is add in an LFO. Sorry, hold on one sec. And maybe what I can do is just kind of pull this down, kind of like so. Make sure that this is not bipolar and make it, that's too slow. Yeah, something like that. We can also take that key filter, copy that, post that right here, move it over here. But you get what I'm saying? It's like you can start creating devices and stuff that you know, you can make some really cool stuff. Oh shit, I was doing the wrong one, my bad. But where is this? Oh. Hey sweetheart. You're wheeling and dealing?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I got a gingerbread candle thing. Pretty sure it's vintage.
Vintage gingerbread candle?
Holder thing, yeah.
Let's go.
On offer up, yeah.
Oh shit. I love her.
This lady had all this Christmas stuff and she's like, I'll make you a deal on all of it. And I was like, man, that cannot fit in my car.
That cannot fit in the car?
Yeah, she had a lot of
Oh.
stuff. She's like, she had wreaths. She had like lots of stuff she's trying to get rid of.
Chat says post Black Friday shopping. Cute. Bitwig needs skins or at least a dark mode. Yeah.
On the black market Black Friday. Shit.
She said Black Market Black Friday. I do have Modus. Modus is pretty sick. What? You only have 2. Oh wow, this is cute.
Pretty sure it's vintage. Like the label is off the bottom, but pretty sure this would be like, I don't know, $50. This looks like a brand that I remember when I was a kid, but I can't.
I'm not sure myself, to be honest.
I'm gonna clean up real quick.
Do you want to say hi to chat? We've got 65 people in here today.
Hey chat, how's it going?
Hashtag vibes. Of course, that's hi. Yo, that house is sick. Oh, super cool. Hello. Is that a gingerbread? Yeah, it's a gingerbread house. Vibes. She's great. She comes on the channel from time to time and says scandalous things, but I'd be happy with a color slider for the orange bits. See, that's something I'd really like too. I'd really like purple. But did you all know that orange is actually like has studies to show that orange actually promotes creativity? Howdy, ma'am. Please, not the southern greeting. Please, we come from that world. No, we've trying to escape it our whole lives. Yeah, I didn't know that. I hate orange, but that is cool. Yeah, it is the creative color, and I don't know why, but I don't know, maybe it trips you out or something. But anyways, what I was saying with this was that, and you can do this with an Ableton as well, by all means. So, you know, you can create like a modular jam of this and then twist it and add all different kinds of effects and whatnot. But that's kind of where I think a lot of people should be going. My thing with sound design is like, if you're trying to sound design for movies and games and shit, it's really handy to know how to do very specific shit. But if you're trying to like make bass music like your favorite producer, like say my favorite producers would be, you know, the guys that I have on the channel every once in a while, like Cage, Zane, the Saturate crew, Frequent, Tipper, whatever, right? All that shit. Like, those guys aren't being like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And if you ask them how they made a specific sound, they might be able to pull it up. But for the most part, they're like, I don't fucking know. I was just fucking around. So there are a couple of specific rules to learn and I'm going to make a video about this at some point, but I really think that you're going to find so many more possibilities if you learn like 3 different rules of like put a limiter at the end, check your mono, or like check your mono signal once in a while, just monitor it, doesn't even need to be correct, and understand how to use an EQ. And once you have that, you should just be like, just close your eyes and just throw anything and everything on here and start modulating it and see where you can go. Because what you're going to do is you're going to learn the relationships between effects. You're going to learn how stuff interacts with it. And then once you have that understanding of the interaction, you can take that little piece or that little relationship and make that relationship appear in other sounds. Does that make sense? That'll teach you so much more about sound design than being like, oh, how do I copy this fucking Skrillex bass? Oh, it's not exactly the same. Hi Gabe, I am visually impaired, not completely blind, but the bright areas in Bitwig are a real problem to me. It hurts me physically, unfortunately, because I love this software. Have you tried like reducing the volume? Like there's different brightness adjustments that you can do, and I'm not sure what kind of impairment you have, but like for me personally, I have everything in black, at least as far as the device menu and all that. You can't change the grid, unfortunately, but you can use darker colors. And you can make everything either bright or dark. For me, I like the black outlook, and you can do that by adjusting the saturation. Who's the best color based person? I don't know. I don't listen to color based, to be honest, but I would imagine most people would probably say Corey. Hi, we drink your holy words. Whoa, whoa, whoa. These words aren't holy. And quite the opposite, actually. Wait, I thought they added grid adjustments? They did. They did. It doesn't make that big of a difference to me, though, personally. But they do have grid adjustments. Grid lines. Hi, we drink your unholy words. There we go. Who's Corey? That's Corey. The lovely lady, Corey. So is there anything else with Live 12 that is coming out that I don't know, do any of you all have the beta? Have any of you all messed with the new synth or anything?
Y'all fuck with it.
Y'all fuck with it? Track sizes only move so small. It does get as big as I want to, though. I guess it has the new mixer thing, but Bitwig has that too, like the mixer panel on the timeline. I don't get why they. That's kind of crazy that they still don't have session view on the same thing. That doesn't make sense to me. Nah, fool. I would love to try the beta. Performance pack, arrangement looper. There's no way to see what this is until I actually have my hands on it. So, oh, that's another thing that you're gonna miss. That I do miss. I really miss Simpler. There's no slicer in Bitwig. Which does suck. My only alternative is I use Serato Sample, which I almost never use anyways, and everything that I do is mostly in audio. Jesus Christ, that's a bright screen. But at the same time, it would be really nice to have a slicing option. But conversely, the sampler within Bitwig, you can alternate between the different sample types. You can slice, no, but it's destructive. That's the problem. The simpler is non-destructive. So if you all haven't seen this, check this out. Happy I have nothing to compare Bitwig to other than Logic Pro, all new territory. Yeah, and that's, I mean, even still, right? I just like to be like, even if I don't have any intention on buying anything, I like to just be updated with technology, and that's why I'm doing this video, because I don't really care about what you use. I don't really care about what I use. It's really just about being like, dude, let's fucking geek out over like what's coming out. The new Roar Effects is a multi-band saturator with a modulator matrix. That seems cool. There's no way to tell like until I actually use it, but I really wish both Ableton and Bitwig would let you scale up the native device strip, aside from scaling up the whole interface. Yeah, we just talked about that, Evie. It's cool to see what other DAWs are using, and I always say every DAW on the market right now is incredible. They all have some amazing features. Yeah, and they kind of push you to like a specific means of working, right? What do I mean it's destructive? Is it just slices the transients and puts into a sampler? No, it doesn't just do that. Like you can't edit the slices. Like you can't change the time or like the placement of the slice. or if you can, then it doesn't do it automatically. So I guess you could do something like this. Hold on one second. We can go slice to multi-sample. And then within this, I also don't like that on here it just has this. I wish that this would actually just show me like what the waveform is. So in theory, excuse me, in theory, you can open this up and you can go, okay, I want to change the placement of this. But it's kind of a pain in the ass. So, and it doesn't do it for you automatically. There's no transient detection on it. So this is where the party is. Hey, Rhino. So there is that does exist, but it's very unintuitive in my opinion. What I will say about the sampler though, and this is something that cannot be done in any other sampler as far as I'm concerned, or like, I'm sorry, I meant to say as far as I know, but check this out. I'm just going to type in C. Oh, shit. I think I selected too many. Hold on one sec. Okay, so you all know about 128 racks, right? To where you can distribute select equally, and then now it'll play on the knob. So what's interesting about this is that you can do this with a granular sampler. I'll say that again because that's fucking crazy. But you can select live in between 120 up to 128 different samples in the multi-sample with the granular synth. And then if you were to add that on top of creating that 128 rack, so let's say I wanted to do a drum rack, drum machine, drum rack, whatever. Well, now we can do this times however many that you want to do. So the other thing with this is that via MIDI retriggering, you can't do it live on the fly, unfortunately, but you can actually just alternate the play mode between the sampler type. So if I want it to be repitch and I hit a C and then I change it, I can change the different types of this from cycle to granular to just repitch mode and have this played dynamically. And then you can set these macros here, or these play modes or whatever, to randomizers or to LFOs. But again, unfortunately with this, if you want to change the mode, you at least have to retrigger the MIDI, so it doesn't do it on the fly. But the selection will. So if you've got something that's a granular synth, you can modulate it, but it won't move. You get what I'm saying? You can modulate it, but it won't actually change the play type until you actually retrigger the sound. So that's why I have this. I have this video called the Super Sampler, or Bitwig Samplers OP, if you guys want to check that out. Do y'all ever post on Bitwig community? No, not personally. I don't even know what that is. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, so you have this, you have the sampler, the crazy ass sampler within Bitwig, but then you have simpler within Ableton, which is a very like large distinction, right? So there's that. Did I miss something? We live in amazing times. Imagine Aphex doing half this shit back in '94. You can free run an arpeggiator, no? Yeah, you can. Or you can use a MIDI grid. A note grid is I think what it's called for the play mode. Yeah, or you can just have a sequence, right? So you can have like a drum pattern on here if you wanted to, or when it loops, it'll retrigger anyways. So that can be your retrigger of when it's always going to jump. I was using a multi-sampler for switching drums on each pad, but switched to instrument selectors instead. Yeah, you could do that too. I mean, in theory, if you wanted to, you could create a drum rack like this, and then you can group this and have another sampler. And then you can, and I think that you can do this in Ableton as well, but then you can right click this and go to convert to effects, or sorry, to convert to instrument layer. And so now behind this 128 rack or whatever, you can now have them alternate between different things as well, which I think is overkill, but it's fucking cool that you can do that. Bit wishes for customer wishes to be added to Bitwig supposedly. Right, round robin samplers. Exactly. And so I don't know if you make IDM or you make any kind of glitch music. Bitwig is a hard sell or easy sell. Hey PG, how are you? And a new synth called Meld. Right, I saw Meld, but I hadn't seen it at all. Scale awareness on modulation like pitch, sticking to the scale, less unmusical modulation, hard to explain. No, I understand. I just, like I said, I haven't been able to like mess with it, so I don't really know. Seed to Stage has a cool beta vid if I'm interested. Yeah, I might check that out. I think Seed to Stage has been pretty prominent in making a lot of Ableton stuff lately, if I'm not mistaken. Do I own Modus? Wolfie, I would just check out the review on it, but yeah, I like it. Your demos sound great on my new Kali N8s just arrived this morning. Not relevant. I'm just excited hearing everything afresh. Which demos are you talking about? Just with my presets, or do I ever mess around with Eurorack VCV stuff? Not with VCV, but I do mess around. I do know some stuff about the grid. That's not really my jam though. I just sliced a drum machine. No need to multiply entities for me as long as it works. Well, it's about variety. Usually that's why people want that kind of stuff, right? But the thing that's really cool about Simpler is that you can stretch individually like slices and like do some really cool like crazy pitching and shit. It's really fucking neat how you can do it. But yeah, we talked about that earlier. It can import Ableton, FL, and Studio One. Can it do anything else? Mr. Bill should switch already. I don't know. I've actually never personally talked to Mr. Bill. I have talked to Frequent on several accounts, and we go back and forth sometimes. But there's certain things about Ableton that he still misses, and certain things that he doesn't. This the new DAW format thing? The new DAW format? Sorry, I don't understand your question. I'm sorry. Cardinal is a free VCV rack open source VST. It's also a Cardinal Sin of EDM. Congrats on the new speakers. Oh, for the DAW project. Yeah, I don't think that it's universal though. I think that it's just I think that you can just import it if I'm not mistaken. I think you're thinking of Clap. Clap is the new plugin format that Bitwig and Yuhi developed. Corey says clap. Clap is nice. Get clapped, right? I think it actually stands for something. I just don't know what it is. Clap. Yeah. So one thing I think that that actually Ableton has, which I didn't mention, I'm sorry that all this shit is so spread out, that Bitwig does not. And I just put up a video asking Bitwig for this, and that maybe that's why I don't use Bitwish, because as opposed to using Bitwish, I'm like, I've got a substantial follower base now, which thank you all, by the way. If any of you all guys are new here, thank you so much for coming in. I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. I've got a lot of tutorials on all the kind of music that I make, all the sounds that I make. I'm here every day almost. But thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. But yeah, I just put up a Bitwig like feature request video, and I don't like that you cannot transpose stuff in repitch mode, and you can do this in Ableton. And there's like at least 5 people I know that will not move to Bitwig until they fix this. And I'm talking about like big producers. I started making beats in FL and it was great, but once I started to dip my toes into other genres, I switched to Ableton. Now I'm considering Bitwig. If you have any questions, that's why I'm here. If you have any questions, and I'm not here to tell you to go to Bitwig or to stay with Ableton. I'm just here to be like, hey, this is, oh, honey, it stands for Clever Audio Plugin. Hi, Amith. Happy to find your channel. Yeah, hey, Winter, what's up? But yeah, that's kind of what we do here. I will say, like, I'm usually focused on sound design and just actually like making tunes, and like I do product reviews as well, like as a side thing when I'm burned out on making music. But I'm really just kind of here to be with the community and to hang out. I'm here to tell you all to go to Bitwig. I don't know, man. Ableton has some cool stuff. Can't you do that with a VST? Do what? There's a guy in a thumbnail just below this that looks really surprised that he has the gear he presumably bought. I hate those dumb thumbnail faces. I do make silly fun thumbnail faces, so feel free to judge me. But I try not to do this one. I don't do that one. Ableton's dope. New update looks sick. The pitch shifting. Oh, you mean like a frequency shifter or something? I guess you can use a pitch shifter, but pitch shifters are usually granular and usually fuck up the quality of the sample. I use Cubase and Bitwigs now thanks to Alckemy. It's nice work, multiple softwares. If you're considering going from Cubase to Bitwig, any of you out there, then you need to look up Dash Glitch's video because he's got a comparison on Cubase versus Bitwig, I believe. I would be like the Ableton person. He would be the Bitwig person. I love Bitwig. I'm sick of the sound design updates. Like they're already doing great. Just improve the basics. Like what? What are some basics that is? I don't know. I guess I did just mention one basic that I think is kind of there, but what are we still missing here? Yeah, Data Broth does some cool stuff on his channel too. Lots of demos. Lots of demos are like just if you're into like no talking sound design from scratch, Data Broth has a great channel for that. Bitwig UI kind of monotonous compared to Ableton. You're kidding, right? They just updated to 5. How frequent are their updates? I'd say like they only do like a big jump. I think like every year and a half, but I think that they release like quarterly stuff, if I'm not mistaken. Retrospective recording is the one everyone always mentions. Yeah, I could definitely see that. I honestly think that for $20, this will give you that within any DAW, and I think that it probably works better because it doesn't save to your hard drive; it saves to your RAM. So if you're looking for retrospective recording, just get Rolling Sampler, guys. It will change your life, especially if you have a resample kind of workflow. It will change your life. And actually, it was Data Broth and Avin that told me about this, and I wrote it off. I was like, why do I need that? I have Balance in Place. I've got, Bounce a New Track or whatever. And then I bought it, and I was like, holy shit. Rolling Sampler will change your life. It is probably the best $20 you could spend on a plugin. It is the best thing. I cannot recommend this enough. Like if I was gonna shill for any kind of plugin whatsoever, Rolling Sampler is perhaps the best purchase that you can make for any amount of sound design that you do. Hot take, but I enjoy Toblerone's UI over Bitwig's coming from Cubase. I had my time getting used to it. Really? That's really surprising. I mean, that's okay. That's really surprising. I guess it has more color palettes and stuff, but man, it's ugly. I mean, they call it Microsoft Excel for a reason, right? But that's fine. That's fine. Please give us Rolling Sampler. There's something like Rolling Sampler. It's called like Treasure Trove or something. But the problem is that it continuously records to your hard drive. So if you don't want it, Rolling Bus in a bus channel, Rolling Sampler in a bus. No, it's on my master. Ableton can look pretty sometimes. I don't get pitch bin and modware automation when I export MIDI. That drives me crazy because I work with a lot of folks in other DAWs. I also want MIDI comping. I don't think Ableton has MIDI comping. I think we just talked about that. But yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, Ableton does have a couple things that look kind of cool. Ableton has MIDI comping. That's the thing. I like to look at Excel. You scare me sometimes. Yeah, Audio Treasure. That's the recording one. I was thinking of Shovel Knight Treasure Trove. The transpose by semitone repitch mode request is up since November 2021, but it sucks workflow wise. It doesn't. There is another alternative. It's called Rewind Monkey, I think, and it will do both audio and MIDI. So that's retrospective capture and all that. But the problem that I have with it is that you have to put it on the actual track. So I'd much rather just have. What I do is I put rolling sampler post master, other than the oscilloscope, of course, but everything goes into my limiter, so that way nothing clips, right? So everything that I bounce out here is always going to be like, nothing is ever going to be over 0 dB, I guess. It might be really loud, but it's never going to be over 0 dB. So I just put that in the rolling sampler and then leave that on. You can't drag and drop audio out, or if you need a save example. Ableton has take lanes. Well, Bitwig has comping, but not for MIDI. I use rolling sampler standalone and listens to all DAWs at once. See, I thought about that, but I don't want to set up loopback, and that's why I don't do that, because that's what annoys me. But it is a nice, yeah, you can do that. So you can set, if you have loopback audio or something, you can set rolling sampler to record like YouTube or, you know, the background or whatever, and then if you find something you like, you just go bloop and put it in, and then there you go. I don't personally prefer it. I just put a rewind in a bus and send individual instruments to it. You could do that too. I don't know. I prefer the master, but you can do that as well. I need to buy a loopback. I'm finally doing lessons. That's great, Data. I'm glad to hear that you're diversifying your income. By sheer coincidence, I have recently been watching Baphometric's audio editing playlist in Bitwig. She created a grid-based calculator back to the repitch thing I mentioned. Even in, yeah, but God, like, isn't that just annoying that we have to do that? Rolling sampler has signal? Yes, it does. Might try that trick with loopback now that I mention it. Good idea. Yeah, it can be an alternative. I mean, if you have some kind of audio splitter, like let's say you have loopback, then you can just record into Bitwig or Ableton respectively. But I guess that's the point of rolling sampler, is that you don't actually have to hit the record button. Bird released a system record thing as well. Did they? Is the allure of the rolling sampler just that it doesn't occupy disk space as compared to regular resampling? Well, it's always going. It's always listening. That's the beauty behind it, is that it's always listening. And you can set different intervals or whatever, but it saves to your RAM, and then we'll go to a folder, which I think that one thing I would like to see improved within rolling sampler is that it's all named like BB. BB something, and it would be nice to like not have that. I don't know. I just checked it out. Because of Bitwig, I can now single track high gain guitar and stereo in fully in phase, no substitute for that. Single track HIG gain guitar and stereo. I'm not sure what gives it that advantage, to be honest. You'd have to explain that, because I don't know, recording isn't really something that I do a lot of. I use SoundSource and set rolling sampler as a plugin in the Bitwig's effects chain there. I think this would work with loopback as well. High gain. The allure is workflow. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to plan on recording something. So when you do something, yeah, you don't have to do a count in. You don't have to, you know, if I'm trying to noodle in guitar or whatever, or I've got a synthesizer or something and I'm like, oh, that was really cool. Like, I don't even have to go back and be like, oh, I didn't record it, or have to set record. I can just be like, oh, there's that piece, and that was really cool. And then you can just drag it out into your timeline. That was utterly useless because that was just silence, but that does give you an indicator. Something that might be worth considering too is if you all do have this setup that I do, I actually have my plugins to leave the window open until you change it. And I think part of that is from not arming tracks. So on one end, it's annoying. I like the ability to arm a track whenever I select it, but because I don't, I'm able to leave my plugins up. So like there's a give and take with that. It would be nice if there was a mix between the two, but unfortunately there's not. So yeah. Does anybody have any questions about either Bitwig or Ableton, or regarding the sort? Yeah, the arm track thing. I like to work with live cut, and it would be gold with rolling sampler. I don't know what live cut is. What is that? What the hell? What in? What in? How's challenge month been for everybody? We're on day 25. We've got 5 days left. It's been a thing. If anybody's interested, my community has been doing the 30-day beat challenge. I've got all of them up on shorts, from day 1 all the way to day 24 or day 23. I haven't uploaded this. What is this, babe? What is it, fry? Oh, thank you. I feel like you're everybody answer a lot of my questions, but I love getting to pop in when you're streaming. Thank you, Voop. I invite you to come say hi as often as you want. Come in and lurk or dip out, but I like when I have an audience. I like when I have people to talk to. That's why I stream. 32-bit stuttering plugin, like a buffer thing. But you all are great. Oh, I see. Yeah. Sorry, that's very dry. Free fry. Yeah. That's the benefit of living with somebody, is every once in a while you get a free fry. Well, I think that I talked about most of the stuff that I wanted to talk about, and I hate to leave 60 people because this is like the biggest audience that I've ever had, but I will be back on Monday. I also stream Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, and I invite you all to come hang with me. And if you have questions about Bitwig or Ableton, I'm happy to answer what I know. We have a Discord community. If you were interested at all within the presets that I showed you earlier, the newest Requiem pack will be available on December 1st, I think, or you can check out what I already have on alchemy.com. Don't buy anything until you watch the demos. I want you to love what I put out. I want you to be happy with these things. And for all of you guys, thank you so much for just being a part of today's stream. It means a lot. Yeah, I'll be back Monday. So, and if you all have any questions or anything, you can hit me up in the Discord. If you want to check out the beat challenge, then you can listen to everyone's submissions there too. Yeah, this community is awesome, and I really appreciate having you all with me. Thank you so much. It means a lot. So I'll see you all later. Bye, everybody. Bye.